On September 8, 2025, at precisely 8:47 p.m., the skyline of Doha split open with fire. Israeli aircraft circling unseen at altitude unleashed precision munitions. In seconds, diplomatic heart of Qatar became battleground, shimmering towers consumed by roaring flames and smoke. Witnesses described deafening roar followed by glass raining from high-rise facades. Streets filled with screams, alarms, and panicked citizens fleeing through boulevards littered with debris. Ambulances pushed into chaos, sirens wailing over sound of collapsing walls and shattered steel. The target was Hamas's political bureau, hosting senior leadership engaged in sensitive talks. Within minutes, reports confirmed 6 dead, aides, guards, and a Qatari officer. Yet initial speculation proved unreliable. Leaders themselves appeared to survive, fueling confusion and furious whispers. Television screens carried haunting imagery, skyscrapers glowing orange, civilians coughing through dust, hospitals overflowing with casualties. Doha, once emblem of neutrality, was transformed into stage of sudden war. Shockwaves rippled outward, unsettling regional stability and collapsing illusion of secure diplomacy overnight. Qatar's leadership called it state terrorism, promising international response. For citizens, disbelief lingered. How had sovereign skies become host to foreign firepower? For world audiences, questions multiplied. This was no ordinary airstrike. It was rupture of rules underpinning global order. The significance of Doha's strike extended far beyond casualties. This was not battlefield in Gaza or Lebanon. It was foreign soil, supposedly neutral ground, where Hamas leaders negotiated ceasefire. By striking here, Israel sent message: no city, no sanctuary remained untouchable. Washington reacted cautiously, condemning timing while reaffirming Israel's security claims. London described violation of sovereignty. Moscow called it breach of United Nations Charter. Ankara labeled it state terrorism. Arab League demanded emergency sessions. Every capital interpreted flames as threat to fragile equilibrium. Qatar's credibility as mediator collapsed instantly. For decades, its skyscrapers symbolized diplomacy. Now, they embodied vulnerability. Gulf neighbors viewed strike as warning. Hosting adversaries might invite fire. Regional alliances trembled, nervous that neutrality no longer provided protection from shadow wars. Speculation deepened. Did Mossad operatives lay groundwork weeks earlier, infiltrating hotels and transmitting coordinates? Was leadership betrayed by insider leaks? How could strike achieve surgical accuracy without extensive intelligence? Doha burned not only with flames but with mysteries fueling global intrigue. The stakes stretched across continents. If sovereignty could be erased here, where else might boundaries dissolve? Could any negotiation survive under constant threat of sudden annihilation? Doha's ruins became symbol of era, where diplomacy itself stood under fire. Who truly authorized fire raining over Doha's skyline? Was decision made in cabinet room, military bunker, or whispered through corridors of Mossad's clandestine networks? Was strike product of calculated necessity or demonstration of dominance intended to intimidate mediators worldwide? Why now, during delicate ceasefire negotiations? Was aimed to cripple Hamas leadership, sabotage peace efforts, or signal that no agreement could shield adversaries? Did Israel seek tactical victory or strategic chaos unraveling Qatar's fragile diplomatic scaffolding? How did senior leaders escape devastation while aides perished? Was survival coincidence, providence, or carefully orchestrated leak? Did double agents compromise precision, ensuring mission failed its ultimate objective? Questions multiplied, but certainty remained elusive, buried beneath layers of smoke. Most chilling of all, what next? Would Hamas retaliate across borders, dragging region deeper into conflict? Would Qatar harden its stance, eroding mediation role? Or would global powers quietly accept violation, normalizing future assassinations under cloak of sovereignty's collapse? Why Israel attacked Doha? Israel's strike on Doha was not random. Intelligence suggested senior Hamas leaders were present, among them Khalil al-Hayya. For years, he symbolized dual threat: negotiator in suits abroad, architect of ideology at home. Eliminating him meant severing Hamas's connective tissue. Doha, until then projected neutrality. Its hotels hosted meetings. Its skyscrapers became stages for delicate diplomacy. Yet that same neutrality made it opportunity zone. Leaders who felt safe under Qatari protection suddenly stood exposed beneath crosshairs drawn from skies above. For Israel, Al-Hayya was not expendable academic. He bridged militant commanders in Gaza with political envoys abroad. His survival frustrated decades of assassination attempts. His presence in Qatar presented chance too rare to ignore, a convergence of access and justification. Strike planners weighed cost against reward. Sovereignty would be violated, diplomacy ruptured. But eliminating Al-Hayya promised shockwaves through Hamas. His ideological influence mattered as much as rockets. For Israel, decision was clear. Fire would fall where calculations promised maximum disruption. Yet operations' meaning stretched beyond single man. Missiles falling on Doha carried message: no sanctuary exists. Not Gaza, not Beirut, not Damascus, and certainly not neutral capitals wrapped in glass towers. Geography itself was no longer shielded from reach. Embarrassment was deliberate. By striking within Qatar, Israel challenged its role as mediator. Message to region was blunt: host Hamas, and you host danger. Qatar's credibility cracked under rubble. Israel reasserted doctrine of deterrence through spectacle as much as precision. The attack disrupted fragile negotiations. Ceasefire prospects dissolved. Allies questioned Israel's recklessness. Adversaries accused it of state terrorism. Yet within Israel's calculus, consequences were manageable, proving extraterritorial reach outweighed outrage. Doha's skyline became stage for demonstration of doctrine everywhere. Al-Hayya's survival complicated narrative, but symbolism remained. Even if strike missed ultimate target, message landed. No leader could assume safety anywhere. Neutrality, diplomacy, sovereignty, all fragile illusions. Fire over Doha transformed them into ash, replaced by stark truth of extraterritorial violence. Interpretations diverged instantly. For Israel, Al-Hayya remained prime target, ideological threat disguised as diplomat. His elimination was goal. His survival, temporary setback. For Hamas, survival was victory. Leaders framed it as divine vindication, proof destiny shielded them against most advanced weapons. For Qatar, attack represented humiliation, sovereignty violated, credibility weakened. For international community, Doha's fire exposed dangerous trend, assassination replacing diplomacy. Target was man, but casualty was order itself. Neutral ground no longer existed. Negotiation tables stood beneath permanent crosshairs. Thus, dual narrative hardened. To Israel, strike showed strength. To Hamas, survival showed resilience. To mediators, tragedy showed futility. Doha became reminder that beyond statistics and speeches lies darker logic, when men become targets, and cities become hunting grounds for shadow wars. Khalil al-Hayya was born in Gaza in 1960, a child of displacement and inherited struggle. His parents carried memories of villages lost in 1948, stories that shaped his earliest years. From infancy, history and grievance became inseparable from daily life. Growing up in refugee neighborhoods, scarcity was constant. Bread was rationed, electricity unreliable, water scarce. Yet among these hardships grew resilience. Al-Hayya excelled academically, seeing education not just as escape, but weapon. Books became both shield against despair and catalyst for purpose. Family discipline was rigorous. Evenings were filled with prayer and stories of dispossession. Parents emphasized duty toward faith and community, weaving narrative that survival required sacrifice. For Khalil, these lessons built conviction that destiny demanded active role in resistance. He enrolled at the Islamic University of Gaza, studying Islamic law. Classrooms buzzed with political energy. Professors framed theology as instrument of liberation. His talent was evident: sharp intellect, persuasive oratory, disciplined demeanor. Gaza's turbulent streets echoed inside halls, shaping student into scholar-activist hybrid. By his 20s, he taught younger students, blending scripture with nationalist discourse. His lectures attracted growing audiences seeking clarity amid chaos. Childhood marked by scarcity evolved into adulthood of influence. foundation of future leadership, was laid firmly within Gaza's contested soil. Al-Hayya's ideology fused two strands: uncompromising religious devotion and pragmatic politics. He believed liberation demanded twin strategies: armed struggle and negotiation. This duality distinguished him within Hamas, where others favored militancy alone. His role became that of mediator without abandoning resistance. He cultivated reputation of austerity: modest dress, unadorned home, avoidance of luxury, symbols reinforcing connection with ordinary Gazans. Colleagues described him as serious, disciplined, yet approachable. These qualities granted credibility both among militants and civilians suffering under blockade and bombardment. Quirks added depth. He collected newspapers obsessively, clipping articles and annotating margins with scriptural references. He kept notebooks filled with political commentary, linking Quranic verses to unfolding events. This unusual habit reflected both scholastic obsession and political calculation fused seamlessly. Within Hamas circles, he became known as the Professor, acknowledgement of his academic background. Supporters often called him the Steadfast One, honoring resilience despite family tragedies and repeated arrests. To adversaries, his nickname was simpler: the Negotiator, voice-bridging militancy and politics. His self-image mirrored these titles. He projected himself as servant of people, immune to temptation of wealth. Yet privately, he viewed himself as indispensable. He believed role as scholar-statesman placed him uniquely at crossroads of diplomacy and resistance, central to struggle's outcome. The First Intifada in 1987 marked turning point. Hamas emerged from protests, blending faith and armed struggle. Al-Hayya shifted from academic to activist. His lectures no longer confined to classrooms. They became manifestos of resistance, rallying students toward cause larger than education. By 1990s, he entered Hamas's political bureau. His speeches provided ideological justification, framing violence as defense of dignity. Unlike commanders in tunnels, he wielded influence through words and structures. His importance grew, trusted as strategist aligning militant and diplomatic wings. Internationally, his profile expanded. He traveled as representative, attending forums, securing support, shaping narratives. His transformation symbolized Hamas itself, from underground movement to governing entity. Transition from scholar to political figure reflected evolution of Palestinian struggle, from street protests to statecraft. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not measured in years, but generations. Since 1948, wars, intifadas, and failed accords have carved wounds into Middle Eastern landscape. For Palestinians, memory of dispossession endures. For Israelis, survival remains central. Each confrontation perpetuates story without conclusion. Gaza exemplifies conflict's harshness. Its dense neighborhoods, sealed borders, and recurring wars produce cycles of destruction. Bombardments level homes, blockades suffocate economy, and every truce collapses under weight of unresolved grievances. Gaza became both prison and crucible, shaping figures like Al-Hayya. Hamas emerged in 1987 as fusion of religious identity and armed resistance. It provided welfare alongside rockets, embedding itself in society. Its rise challenged both Israel and secular Palestinian authority, presenting uncompromising vision where resistance was sacred duty sanctified by Scripture. Israel, refusing distinction between political and military wings, pursued decapitation strategy. Leaders were assassinated in Damascus, Beirut, and Gaza. Mossad's alleged fingerprints appeared repeatedly: poisons, car bombs, covert raids. Doha Strike continued this extraterritorial pattern, conflicts spilling into capitals previously considered sanctuaries for negotiations. Qatar styled itself mediator, hosting Hamas leadership and facilitating ceasefire talks. Its capital projected neutrality. Yet Israeli strike ruptured this image instantly. Flames over West Bay symbolized collapse of Doha's credibility as impartial stage. Qatar denounced attack as state terrorism. United States condemned timing, warning escalation endangered diplomacy. Britain called violation of sovereignty unacceptable. Russia escalated rhetoric, citing breach of UN Charter. Turkey accused Israel of adopting terrorism as policy. Arab League convened emergency sessions, issuing collective denunciations with unusual unanimity. Gulf states voiced solidarity. Saudi Arabia and Oman condemned assault, framing it regional threat. Pakistan, Iran, and Malaysia joined chorus. European powers expressed unease. If Qatar's skies could be violated, could any state truly trust sanctity of its sovereignty? Israel responded defiantly. Defense Minister declared enemies would be targeted everywhere. This doctrine alarmed allies, signaling collapse of boundaries between war fronts and neutral states. For adversaries, it confirmed fears. Sovereignty was expendable, assassinations legitimized. Doha became case study in new geopolitical playbook. Khalil al-Hayya was more than negotiator. He embodied Hamas's intellectual legitimacy. His survival ensured continuity. His death promised rupture. Israel viewed him as connective tissue linking militants underground with envoys abroad, making him symbol of movement's resilience and adaptability. Unlike commanders confined to battlefields, he operated across domains. He could justify rocket fire from pulpits while drafting agreements in conference halls. This duality threatened Israel's narratives. Eliminating him meant striking both ideological heart and diplomatic channels simultaneously. International mediators valued his presence. He signaled Hamas's willingness to engage politically, however conditionally. Yet this also rendered him dangerous. His ability to humanize Hamas undermined Israel's diplomatic campaigns, portraying it solely as terrorist organization. His existence complicated global discourse. Doha Strike's rationale crystallized here. Targeting al-Hayya disrupted negotiations and weakened Qatar's mediating role. It reaffirmed Israel's extraterritorial reach. Yet his survival subverted objectives, reinforcing myth of invincibility. The very attempt elevated his stature, transforming him into legend. For adversaries, failure was costly. During First Intifada, al-Hayya's speeches electrified Gaza. Israeli forces arrested him repeatedly, accusing him of incitement, fundraising, and mobilization. To adversaries, he was agitator cloaked as professor. To supporters, he was voice of defiance, punished for words rather than weapons. Each detention magnified reputation. Prisons became revolving doors, reinforcing image of indomitable scholar. Release after confinement carried symbolic weight. He had endured interrogation, yet refused silence. Crowds greeted him as hero, proof that knowledge could resist occupation's handcuffs as effectively as rifles. Israeli intelligence files documented him carefully, listing charges from organizing protests to aiding militants indirectly. Yet evidence remained circumstantial. What mattered was perception. His name circulated among youth as intellectual leader, blending authority of cleric with fire of activist. Inside cells, he allegedly suffered beatings, isolation, and relentless questioning. Supporters claimed scars testified to brutality. For him, captivity became crucible. Later speeches invoked imagery of chains and humiliation, transforming private suffering into shared narrative of resistance sanctified through endurance. Observers noted paradox. Prisons designed to break leaders instead hardened them. Confinement often incubated determination. Al-Hayya emerged stronger, fusing religious conviction with political steel. His reputation grew. Captivity conferred authenticity, deepening aura of resilience around figure already elevated by faith and scholarship. In early 1990s, al-Hayya formally joined Hamas's political bureau. He became bridge-linking scholars, militants, and administrators. His role was ideological architect, legitimizing resistance through jurisprudence. His lectures translated scripture into political doctrine, providing movement with intellectual scaffolding for long-term struggle. Beyond political bureau, he cultivated grassroots structures. Student blocs, mosque committees, charities, all extended Hamas's influence. These institutions provided education and welfare, but also served as recruitment pipelines. Through them, al-Hayya blurred line between governance and insurgency, embedding resistance into everyday life. He remained less visible in combat zones but equally dangerous. His pen and voice strengthened movement's legitimacy, while his organizational skills secured foundations. Israel recognized danger of scholar-politician hybrid. From this period onward, his inclusion in target lists became inevitable. By 2000s, Hamas escalated tactics. Intelligence linked al-Hayya's networks to financing channels sustaining militant operations. Funds flowed through charities, routed into arms procurement. Kidnappings of Israeli soldiers and retaliatory killings surged. Though not commander, his ideological endorsement framed violence as sacred defense. Israeli analysts argued legitimizers were as dangerous as fighters. His sermons provided moral cover for bloodshed. His indirect role was ambiguous, yet influential. He shaped narratives justifying rocket launches and clandestine tunnels. Militancy's escalation was matched by his rhetorical defensive actions. International pressure mounted. His name appeared in security reports across Europe and America. He was described as strategist ensuring Hamas survived beyond battlefield losses. For Israel, eliminating such figure became priority, proof that resistance could be weakened intellectually as well as militarily. 2003. Israeli raids targeted financial networks, alleging his associates funneled weapons money. Files vanished into archives, details classified. Supporters dismissed allegations as propaganda. Yet shadow of suspicion persisted, reinforcing mystique around his hidden operational role in movement's expansion. 2007. During Hamas's violent Gaza takeover, he emerged delivering fiery speeches. Broadcast globally, his rhetoric declared victory, cementing Hamas's rule. For Israel, his words symbolized consolidation of hostile power. His visibility rose, making him recognizable adversary beyond Gaza's borders. 2014. Israeli airstrikes killed family members. Al-Hayya survived. Images of him mourning spread, strengthening myth of resilience. Tragedy deepened commitment, amplifying symbolic power. To Hamas supporters, he embodied sacrifice. To Israel, survival emphasized urgency of removing figure repeatedly escaping elimination. By 2025, trajectory led him to Doha. Negotiator yet militant, scholar yet strategist, survivor yet target. Every incident added weight. His presence at table carried decades of defiance. His elimination promised disruption. His survival reinforced legend. Balance teetered under history's burden. By late 2000s, Khalil al-Hayya's prominence drew intense scrutiny. Israeli intelligence labeled him ideological architect of Hamas. He bridged militant networks with political strategies. Unlike fighters visible on front lines, his influence was quieter, yet deeper. Dossiers marked him high-value target. Western governments followed. The United States sanctioned him under counterterrorism lists, freezing assets and restricting travel. European intelligence circulated briefs describing him as propagandist, whose speeches enabled recruitment. His academic veneer made him difficult adversary, scholar legitimizing insurgency through rhetoric and diplomacy. Israel refused distinction between political and military roles. To officials, his ideological scaffolding empowered militancy. Security agencies concluded elimination was necessary. He symbolized resilience. His name joined ranks of Hamas leaders whose lives were measured by countdown toward targeted assassination. The designation altered perception. Followers viewed him martyr-in-waiting. Credibility enhanced. Adversaries justified extraordinary measures. International observers recognized paradox. By appearing on most wanted rosters, al-Hayya's political importance increased. Pursuit elevated him from negotiator to mythic opponent, further complicating conflict's already unstable equation. Attempts followed designation. In 2007, drone strike near Gaza allegedly targeted him. Blast killed aides but spared al-Hayya. Supporters proclaimed divine protection. Analysts suggested miscalculation. Either way, survival enhanced mythos. His name became synonymous with improbable escapes from certain death. 2014 deepened narrative. Israeli airstrikes demolished his home, killing family members. Al-Hayya survived again. Global images of grief transformed him into living martyr. For Hamas, tragedy symbolized sacrifice. For Israel, survival reinforced urgency. Target eluded strikes repeatedly, undermining credibility of elimination doctrine. Whispers spread of poison plots abroad, intercepted letters and operatives shadowing him. Each rumor lacked confirmation, yet painted chilling picture. Mossad, waiting patiently. His life became theater of suspense. Every appearance at rally or negotiation carried aura of looming assassination. By 2020s, attempts blended into legend. Each failure strengthened narrative of invulnerability. For supporters, escapes validated divine mission. For adversaries, failures mocked precision. For neutral observers, patterns suggested inevitability. Sooner or later, fate and intelligence machinery would converge decisively over his shadowed path. Every figure marked for elimination carries invisible countdown. For Al-Hayya, ticking grew louder after each survival. Analysts warned presence in Doha was combustible, symbol of defiance standing beneath crosshairs. Neutral ground offered no safety. Strike appeared not question of if, but when. Doha's negotiation tables masked battlefield tension. Israel's doctrine proclaimed enemies vulnerable anywhere. His survival challenged their credibility. His death promised disruption. For watchers worldwide, inevitability tightened. Flames on September 9, 2025 revealed prophecy fulfilled. Target hunted across decades finally faced destiny's fire. In early September 2025, a stream of travelers entered Doha's Hamad International Airport. Their appearances were unremarkable. Business attire, tourist smiles, ordinary luggage. Yet their synchronized movements betrayed something else. Intelligence whispers later suggested Mossad's Qatar operatives walked unnoticed through bustling terminals. Flights from Athens, Rome, and Istanbul carried them separately. Each passenger passed customs smoothly, papers stamped without suspicion. Beneath their luggage lay concealed devices, encrypted radios, false documents, miniature cameras. Nothing appeared extraordinary, but every object carried potential role in clandestine orchestration. At baggage claim, subtle glances exchanged signaled recognition. Identical watches checked in unison. Taxis hailed in sequence departed toward West Bay. Patterns invisible to ordinary eyes later revealed choreography. By nightfall, operatives melted into cityscape, dispersing across hotels like ink spreading across maps. Operatives booked rooms in separate luxury hotels, avoiding patterns. Staff remembered polite guests requesting high floors with city views. From balconies, telescopic cameras tracked convoys. Briefcases emitted faint hum. Transmitters relaying encrypted signals, invisible to surveillance systems yet vital for coordination. Cover identities were crafted meticulously. Some posed as consultants for energy firms, others as academics attending conferences. They distributed business cards, attended staged meetings, and smiled easily. Behind facades, they compiled data. Prayer routines, guard rotations, building entry points, convoy departures. Rental cars shifted across districts, blending into traffic while discreetly tailing targets. Drones disguised as hobbyist devices hovered innocently overhead. Satellite imagery stitched together broader picture. Mosaic of surveillance converged into certainty. Al-Hayya's daily patterns mapped to second, vulnerabilities catalogued carefully. September 9th dawned calmly. Convoys departed as usual. Al-Hayya attended morning sessions, unaware of predators' gaze. Operatives tracked movements from cafes, relaying updates through concealed earpieces. Every minute calibrated, each delay weighed against narrowing window for decisive strike looming closer. At noon, confirmation arrived. Leadership convening at Hamas office. Coordinates relayed in real time. Vehicles departed under bodyguard escort. Operatives shadowed discreetly, transmitting positions. In distant command centers, Israeli officers scrutinized live feeds, ensuring no discrepancy between intelligence and reality. By afternoon, decision finalized. High-altitude aircraft entered holding patterns above Gulf. Operatives adjusted transmitters, verifying links. Hotel rooms appeared ordinary from hallways, yet inside, glowing screens tracked convoys. Doha's serenity masked storm building invisibly above glittering skyline. Evening converged destiny. Convoys reached compound, watches synchronized. Pilots armed precision munitions. Operatives confirmed presence inside. City lights twinkled indifferently, unaware seconds separated peace from catastrophe. Command transmitted order across encrypted channel. Silence deepened moment before firestorm descended, rewriting history within instant. Operation fused espionage with modern warfare. Ground operatives triangulated coordinates using hidden transmitters, guiding jets with pinpoint accuracy. Missiles selected for limited radius, designed to obliterate specific wing while minimizing collateral destruction. Precision portrayed surgical efficiency, though aftermath revealed broader devastation. Tradecraft underpinned success. Glasses hid miniature cameras. Pens doubled as lockpicks. Briefcases shielded signal boosters. Even receipts from staged conferences provided alibis. Every mundane object carried double life, blending seamlessly into urban environment while concealing threads connecting ground to sky. Redundancy was doctrine. Backup strike windows prepared, alternative escape routes rehearsed, contingency toxins secured. If aircraft aborted, ground assets had fallback measures. Mossad's philosophy tolerated no single point of failure. Each element layered until outcomes seemed inevitable, failure impossible. Yet cracks nearly appeared. One operative lingered too long near compound, drawing police patrol's suspicion. Another avoided hotel staff questions about locked briefcases. Each incident threatened exposure. Only discipline, forged through training, prevented unraveling of months invested in mission. In command center's atmosphere was suffocating. Screens streamed live feeds. Officers whispered updates. Seconds elongated into eternity. Doha glittered serenely, yet beneath skyline, silence thickened. When final order transmitted, it sounded like thunder waiting to unleash storm upon city. At 8:47 p.m., missiles struck. Fire engulfed Hamas offices. Shockwaves shattered windows blocks away. 6 people died instantly. Bodyguards, aides, and Qatari officer. Reports conflicted over Al-Haya's fate. Survivors pulled from rubble. Flames illuminated night sky, choking boulevards with acrid smoke. Diplomatic heart of Doha lay in ruins. Civilians staggered through wreckage, disoriented. Sirens wailed as operatives vanished into anonymity, leaving no trace. Jets disappeared beyond horizon. Negotiations sanctuary transformed into battlefield. Mission executed, yet ambiguity lingered. Target survived. Legend magnified. Questions multiplied endlessly. Fire crews pushed into chaos, dragging hoses across shattered streets. Flames crackled through compounds' wreckage, illuminating twisted steel and broken glass. 6 lifeless bodies emerged from rubble. Aides, guards, and Qatari officer. Their remains testified to precision warped into indiscriminate devastation. Rumors spread wildly. Some claimed senior Hamas leaders perished instantly. Others insisted survival, citing rushed evacuations under heavy guard. Confusion dominated headlines. For families, grief was certain. For investigators, ambiguity clouded every conclusion. For adversaries, question lingered. Was true objective achieved? Victims were rushed to Doha hospitals under armed escort. Forensic teams cataloged wounds, burns, shrapnel injuries, blunt trauma from collapsing walls. Surgeons described force as catastrophic, yet oddly selective. One wing obliterated, neighboring rooms scarred but intact. Precision suggesting deliberate intelligence-led targeting. Preliminary reports clarified casualties. None matched senior leadership. Hamas claimed leaders survived unharmed, framing survival as divine miracle. Qatar emphasized violation of sovereignty, withholding details. International observers pressed for transparency. Authorities remained guarded. Lack of clarity fueled suspicion and conspiracy further. Doha's investigators scoured surveillance archives. Footage revealed peculiar patterns, strangers checking into multiple hotels, moving with synchrony. Separate arrivals, yet identical luggage, mirrored itineraries, shared taxis. Ordinary to casual viewers, these fragments became sinister choreography when stitched together retrospectively. Passports ignited scandal. Several bore authentic numbers, yet belonged to unsuspecting citizens abroad. Echoes of 2010 Dubai assassination returned. European capitals demanded accountability. Governments launched inquiries, furious at misuse of identities. Doha pointed fingers discreetly toward Mossad's shadowed legacy of forged documents. Hotel staff recalled polite guests disappearing overnight. Rooms stripped bare, electronic devices gone, trash meticulously removed. Investigators suspected operatives transmitted strike coordinates from these safe havens. Yet tangible evidence was absent. Fingerprints erased, identities dissolved, leaving only silhouettes in smoke-filled memory. Diplomatic storm erupted instantly. Qatar labeled attack state terrorism, urging emergency sessions at United Nations. Gulf Cooperation Council rallied, condemning violation. Arab League framed it as assault on neutrality itself. Solidarity statements poured from capitals, amplifying sense that sovereignty had burned alongside buildings. Russia condemned attack as gross UN charter breach. Turkey accused Israel of adopting terrorism as policy. Britain declared it destabilizing. United States, though cautious, warned such actions undermined stability. Condemnation spanned continents, uniting unlikely voices against precedent of extraterritorial strikes. Israel's response remained defiant. Officials vowed enemies would be hunted everywhere. Rhetoric hardened divisions. Allies shifted uneasily. Adversaries seized opportunity. Negotiation channels collapsed into silence. Doha's rubble was not merely wreckage. It was symbol of collapsing diplomacy, foreshadowing escalation waiting across horizon. Behind official ministries lies phantom bureaucracy, networks of intelligence agencies immune to sunlight. Mossad epitomizes this hidden empire. Its orders lack signatures, its budgets remain invisible, its doctrines blur morality. Within these shadowed corridors, assassination becomes paperwork disguised as national security. Power within phantom bureaucracy moves silently. Decisions bypass parliaments, whispered through encrypted channels, stamped with initials. Targets reduced to names on lists. Sovereignty becomes abstraction. When missiles fell on Doha, many saw not warfare, but machinery of bureaucracy executing policy. Whispers suggested Mossad prepared ground. Operatives allegedly mapped convoys, infiltrated hotels, and transmitted coordinates. Doha was not battlefield, but extension of administrative logic, where intelligence reports transformed into fire. For phantom bureaucracy, legality bends, morality fractures, and survival justifies everything. If bureaucracy is brain, operatives are limbs. Mossad's Qaidon unit embodies invisible legion, hunters wearing tourist smiles. They slip through airports unnoticed, check into hotels, and vanish before dawn. Each passport forged, each identity temporary, each mission designed to erase footprints completely. To enemies, they are nightmares inhabiting daylight. To allies, they are assurance threats remain hunted. In Doha, speculation swirled. Had Qaidon already marked rooms, traced routines, ensured strike was inevitable? The city's skyline shimmered above, yet shadows deepened below. Doha strike carried echoes of past missions. In 1973, Mossad hunted Black September across Europe. In 1995, a Hamas leader in Amman nearly died from poison hidden in spray. In 2010, Dubai operation exposed passport forgeries, embarrassing allies but reinforcing legend. Patterns repeated across decades: infiltration, surveillance, elimination, disappearance. Success measured not only in deaths, but in fear instilled. Doha resembled sequel rather than anomaly, continuation of playbook perfected over years. The strike's choreography matched signatures of those older operations. Unanswered questions multiplied. Did operatives escape under real names? Were hotels scrubbed before investigators arrived? Did foreign governments quietly collude? Each question blurred line between history and present. Echoes suggested Doha was not an isolated event, but another chapter of clandestine continuity. Above operatives stand flawed leaders, cloaked in authority. Prime ministers, defense chiefs, shadow councils. They sanction death while proclaiming peace. They are gods behind curtains, pulling strings unseen. Doha's flames revealed truth. Assassins serve thrones, and morality dissolves in chambers of power. In Gaza, funerals drew massive crowds. Coffins draped in green banners moved through narrow alleys, mourners chanting defiance. For many, the dead were not casualties but martyrs. Every tear hardened resolve, every cry vowed resistance would continue beyond missiles and rubble. Qatar honored its fallen officer with solemn ceremony. Leaders condemned violation of sovereignty, pledging diplomatic retaliation. Hamas declared leadership's survival divine protection. Within hours, tragedy transformed into spectacle. Doha's wreckage became theater where narratives of grief, defiance, and endurance collided. The strike fractured diplomacy. Qatar's credibility as mediator collapsed. Arab League hardened position. Gulf states recalibrated alliances. Israel's doctrine of extraterritorial reach unsettled capitals worldwide. No sanctuary seemed safe. The incident reshaped conversations about sovereignty, legitimacy, and blurred boundaries between negotiation and war. For Hamas, al-Hayya's survival elevated him further. He became living legend, symbol of divine protection. For Israel, tactical blow created strategic complication. Killing aides while sparing leaders exposed limitations. Doha's flames signaled warning. Ideology survives even when missiles claim lives around it. In the end, Doha's firestorm altered little in balance of power. Yet it revealed world's hidden truth. States employ assassins. Sovereignty crumbles under doctrine of reach. Diplomacy burns overnight. Beneath smoke lingers shadow realm, where truth remains buried and justice never arrives.